Recording is resumed. All right, here we go. This is our team huddle for August 24th, 2022 for the ABC team. Thank you all for being here. As I mentioned prior to remember to turn on the recording, we'll look at motions. We're going to look at using Word as its autocorrect as a hint of what might need changed. We're going to talk about words that are not said, but we need to include. Just a couple of quick examples, some sentence orders, and also how to simplify some phrases. And that has a lot to do with writing style, but I'm hoping with this example, it will kind of help hone in what type of writing style we're looking for when we're doing minutes. So off the top, we're going to look at the Hillsborough Planning Commission for June 22nd. And usually as we come in, so the first thing off the bat is, and we're going to take a few minutes on this file because it kind of covers several of those items, especially the motions. But as you all probably already know, but it's worth repeating, to make sure that when you are starting a file or you are proofing or editing a file, you want to grab the agenda item, the agenda from the Trello card, so you can cross-reference just how things are set up on the page. For example, we're looking, oh, would you like me to share? Sorry about that. There we go. All right, we're going to share screen.
Oh, you're still on vacation? Come on, you got to get back in the groove.
Yes. So, man, step it up, girl. Let's go. All right, so you guys should be able to see. Do you see the Hillsborough document side by side?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, excellent. So one thing about when we talk about comparing how things are lined up, for instance, in this file under consent agenda and then also under the Planning Commission, the agenda items were not aligned correctly. They were more offset. So like the A was, when we first received it, it was more aligned like this. And on the agenda, everything is aligned according to the item number or the main item above it. So just want to check that, as well as making sure that the request, in this case, any information following that agenda item is aligned appropriately. And this was off a bit too. So just align them. It should look just exactly as you start the agenda. And when I start a file, usually I go through, and I'm sure anyone who's got experience, Letty, Maddie, when you're starting this going as a transcriptionist, you know, that's the first thing I do is I get my file ready and I just plug in all of those agenda items so it's looks right, it's all tight, and then I start transcribing thereafter. One thing I'm still seeing a little bit is we only want one space between sentences. Back in my typing days and handwriting or writing, you know, it was two spaces, but now we've really moved that to a one space between sentences.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting to learn.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Also with the agenda, looking at the agenda is in this case, and every city is a little different, but excuse me, like with vice president is hyphenated. Hillsborough hyphenates that, and it's shown that way on their agenda. So we want to continue that throughout the whole entire document. Again, sure. Every city is a little different, but your agenda, sometimes your packet can give you, you know, how the city does things. And again, every city is different.
Yeah.
Okay, so now let's move to motions. Generally, the general rule for ABC transcription, and as you might know, there seems to always be an exception with ABC, but generally we want to mimic what is stated in the motion. However, a lot of times they'll just say so moved, or I have one board in Wilsonville. They're a very new board. They're not comfortable making motions. They, you know, chase the rabbit around the bush 3 times before they finally figured out what they're supposed to say. So in this case, there's a couple different examples here. For instance, they move to approve the initiation of this amendment. And in this case, with Hillsborough, they always have this order number on most all of their actions. And so we just need to include the order number. Move to approve order number 8376. Sometimes it's not wrong to include the additional information like the initiation of zone change XYZ, seconded by so forth. That's fine. But we really want the order number in there because that's actually what they're approving, is everything in that order number. And it makes sure that for the record, it's very clear. So they approve the order, people can go to the order and know exactly what is included. A lot of times, this is sometimes considered fluff only because it's already stated up in the agenda in the agenda item. But sometimes they can misspeak. And so it's just a safe default to just say approved order number, whatever it is. Also, the Hillsborough is pretty good. Sometimes it's not always clear who is the motioner and the seconder, but in this case, they actually stated who seconded the motion. And so we want to make sure those names are right, of course. And then I put this in yellow because move to approve commissioner as vice president. Usually we would, and that is what they stated. Again, it's kind of sloppy, but from a grammatical standpoint, I usually we want to take things very literally. So would they approve a commissioner as president? They might approve to appoint the commissioner as vice president, or approve, authorize, how do I say? I would say approve appointing commissioner would probably be the best case on that. But that's kind of where our the language needs to be straight, or more clear on that. And there's a couple examples of that. So sticking with the motions, I'm just going to scroll here for a minute. Okay, this is another couple here. These two are great examples. I got highlighted here. So generally we don't have HPC, the Hillsborough Planning Commission, is only an acronym in ABC land. Typically all of our cities type out Planning Commission, whether it's Astoria or anything else, and then you can default to commission. In this case, it was incorrect because HPC, it would have been HCP if they were trying to use that as a hyphen. That's the incorrect hyphen. And so, and we never make an acronym out of the compensation plan. Sometimes they'll say comp plan. That's usually what you hear, but we always type out comprehensive plan. And so this was just taken, the language was just taken from the actual agenda item. And then also date certain. You'll hear that a lot, and it's really an important part of public records language, because it's just what it says, a date certain, and it's just the lingo, the jargon that we use when we're changing a date. And that's just something you see across cities. So when you hear date certain, this is the best way to put it, is we just put the date, whatever is stated, and then add date certain after that.
Okay, I'm glad you clarified that, because I had not heard that. I was 3, 4, maybe the fifth one, whatever it was. I'd been a ways into this, and that's when I first heard it. I was like, okay, who went to legal land to drag this back? So it almost seems superfluous to me. If you tell me that's going to happen on June 27th, then it's going to happen on June 27th.
Right.
Date certain seemed like, oh, we're going to add some more fluff. So, okay,
Yeah.
I will amend that going forward.
Yeah, and you'll see oftentimes staff will correct them. Could you please amend your motion to state date certain? Like if they miss it, a lot of times they'll miss it and ABC will still add it, and I'll put it in blue. Like, by the way, they forgot date certain, even though that was in the discussion. So those are the kind of things. And then on this motion here, if you look at the, how do I say it? If you look at the motion as stated, what's crossed out, they're approving the continuation request of the PUD rather than approving or wanting to continue the hearing. So, and I believe in this case, if I remember correctly, he did say, I want to approve the continuation request by staff. Well, the continuation request by staff was to continue the public hearing. We wouldn't continue the request, right? Kind of goes back to that literal verbiage. What does the sentence state? And as writers and rewriters and so forth, we know that how a sentence is structured is where the emphasis is placed. And so literally, this does not make any sense. So it was changed to continue the public hearing on this order number, because that's what's going to happen at the next public hearing. And then we went ahead and clarified, it's the PUD 2, August 24th, again, that date certain thing. And that's how it should be. Is there any questions about those? It's kind of, it's a lot of information quick, I know.
Yes, I have one about your first point about with the way they word their motion, because Redmond, they are very laborious about how they word their motions, and it
Mhm.
doesn't always match the agenda. So would you want then the specific order or resolution or ordinance number in there, even if the counselor didn't say it?
Absolutely, that's a great point. And yes, and then you can just highlight it in blue.
Okay.
Redmond's still kind of getting used to how we work. And so it's good that we note for the record, because a lot of times we really inform staff that their boards need new training. And they've used this as an excuse, like, oh, our transcription company, they called us out on this, guys, And so that's one way that we can help them so that they know that the record is absolutely clear. So great question, Maddie. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. And I had another quick one, if you don't mind.
Sure.
If a motion doesn't pass, what is the preferred word for that?
It would be denied. And that brings me up a good point, I think. Watch the scroll, turn away. There we go. Okay. We'll come back to that. So yes, it would be motion, the motion, I got to think of it. The motion carried, the motion passed, the motion failed is the word. The motion failed unanimously,
Failed.
or the motion
Oh.
failed. In this case, it would be like if this was the example, the motion failed 0 to 3 to 1 with Commissioner Earl Nash abstaining. And this is how that looks. We don't type out the words because having the numbers there is a quick look. They can see exactly what the vote is. That's just all motions are usually, the votes are tallied as a number, not a word. Great question. I kind of slurred two things together there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's just I never had a motion denied until yesterday
Oh.
on any of in a year of working with you.
It does happen. See, they do fight back. So yeah, motion failed. And often, sometimes it'll fail unanimously. So you put that, but oftentimes, there might be a split vote. And so we'd say the motion failed, in this case, 0, because the first number is always in favor. The second number is always opposed. And the third number is if they abstained. And there's a lot of reasons why a counselor or a commissioner or board member will abstain. It could be because they don't agree, they don't think they have enough information. I'm sure all of you have heard something, little chitter chatter about why people abstain. So does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, we talked about alignment. Oh, okay. So let's see if we can do this autocorrect here. Okay. So for those of you using Word, here we go. This is the one Auleen will love. All of you that are using, like I use the Word 365 now because the old Word I used to use forever. I don't know. Letty will probably know the name of it. It was 2.0 or 10.6 or whatever it was. Now this is totally replaced with 365. And you'll see as you're scrolling through or you're reading things, you'll see these little blue lines that they give you. Can you guys see that okay?
Yeah.
I can blow that up a little bit. I should have thought of that earlier. Just for the sake of our work anyway. Okay. So because and if you right click with your cursor, it will tell you that you need to check your punctuation, or there's a comma missing, or there's a hyphen missing in a word. So you just left click and then, click on the suggestion and it's fixed.
Right.
So as you're finalizing, because I know this is one of Alleen's big thing is like, we need a comma after the year. Excellent work. Thank you. But Word also catches that. So even for our transcriptionists, as you're doing your read through and you see some funny blue lines under a
Yeah.
thing, then like, oh, I need to pay attention to that.
Right.
I will say I'm not always 100%, and I can't for the life of me think of a great example right now, but when you see the blue ones, just default to what Word is suggesting and you'll be golden.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. And that has to do with hyphenated words, placement of commas. Those are probably the biggest things that I see throughout this. Okay.
Commas are my favorite.
Yeah, I know.
You know that.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so the last one with this particular file is inserting words that aren't quite there. So in this staff report, they're citing various code sections, and I believe the language was something like, you'll find this in the code, and then they just say a 12.80.04H.
Mhm.
So first of all, when we know it's code, the code would have been heard, right? So that's what we would we would retain that, we would insert that in there, even though it was said out of order. They're citing a code section. So when you see them doing all these numbers with periods and parens and so forth like that, that's when you're going to want to change that. Generally, this is the format for that. The letters are usually in parentheses, but we just want to say it's just code section. So when you come across those, just go ahead and insert code section. It's just clear for the record, even though sometimes they don't say it, or they might say it once and then just refer to the numbers throughout the rest of the hearing. We just want to put at least code section the first time, and then I usually just go section and then the numbers thereafter. Any questions about that or extra comments? Letty, Maddie, you guys see this all the time?
No.
Okay.
No questions yet.
Okay, great. And another thing is, and this is kind of a wacky one, is when a city is referring to its code, generally that is capitalized. It's kind of like capitalizing city. It's kind of, it just calls out a little bit. When it's code with a little c, it's more of like a generalization, like other cities' code. It might be the county's code. It's a little nuance in there that can be kind of irritating, but it just helps the reader because that helps it jump out on the page. And it's kind of like like we refer to the staff of that city is capitalized. City entity versus town is capitalized. And so forth. Okay. All right, so let's go to sentence order. See if I can make quick work of this for y'all. All right, so this is the Banks Planning Commission, my little hometown here. And we have a city manager that is probably one of our top most challenging people to transcribe for. She is a brilliant woman, but I think when she presents, she gets really nervous. And I've seen her grow like leaps and bounds in her presenting over time. But she's one of those we just kind of, she starts 3 different sentences and then somehow wraps them all up at the end, not always in order. And anybody who has done banks before absolutely knows what I'm talking about. And I know Caroline's on the recording, and so or we'll be catching the recording, and a couple of our other transcriptionists that have done banks before, so they know what I'm talking about. But I think overall is to capture what's stated chronologically. In this case, I know the transcriptionist worked really hard to massage the language so it kind of followed protocol, like presented an update on the design. Usually we start with that, but Becker starts out just noting, like, that's kind of her lead in before her presentation, is that, our 2037 vision plan included creating a community plaza, and the city council had recommended that the EDC look at the needs for a plaza and potential plaza sites. That's pretty much a verbatim, minus some of her extra language in there, but that's what we did. And then she presents the update. So she kind of provides that background, and then she's getting into the presentation, the PowerPoint or whatever she's using at that time. If you want to take a screenshot of that and look at how the language was shifted and what additional language was added, that would be great. The 2 things is, they wanted the EDC to look at what, the needs for the plaza. That was kind of missing content. And then, as most all of you know, when we're setting up these bullets, because she's making lots of points, there was nothing in the staff report that outlined this presentation, so we defaulted to just including everything that's in there. With these key comments, colon really sets up that bulleting sequence for us, and just simplifies things. So when you see green font, that's usually a friendly suggestion about how to rearrange the sentence so it's more clear, or maybe simplify the sentence a little bit too. So the blue is some missing words. And oh, one thing that would be great to get on the recording, when we're inserting timestamps, and I know those of you who are already on, you're seasoned, so you know this is what's happening, but we always put the period. So in this case where it says splash pad, when we're putting a timestamp in is very helpful, but we want to put the punctuation closest to the sentence. So the period would go right at the end of the sentence and then the timestamp. And the reason for that is when you're going to pull out all those timestamps, you have to be really careful about not catching that period and making sure the period, it's just very detail oriented. It's trying, especially, you know, this was only what, just I don't know, 10 pages, 5 pages, but by the 7. So by the time you get to a 24-page document and you're trying to nitpick all of those sentence periods and put them where they're supposed to be, you just want to rip your hair out. It's crazy. So always put your punctuation before your timestamp. Okay. Any questions on that rearranging portion? I just have one more and then we'll take questions. Okay, I am going to move on to this last one, which is, see if we can simplify this for y'all. Bring up, there we go. Okay, so on this section that you see in green, you can see where I've deleted this extra verbiage. Sometimes, as you know, transcriptionists are newer and they're experimenting with the language and they want to make it very formal and precise. However, I also think a lot of what you see as crossed out is what I would consider fluff. You know, she explained the reason behind her motion to consider, stating that it did da, 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 da. Now, she just explained her motion to reconsider had to do with. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you can take out like pages of this. I've reduced files by literally 5 or 6 pages on a file because of all of this little fluff stuff that's in there. So just think directly to the point, you know. And Baumgartner probably stated it just like that. It's not always bad to err towards verbatim, especially for our newer team members. But this is one thing that I find we're always working on, is just simplify the sentence, boiling it down to the salient points and get powering through it. And, you know, I'm open to Maddie or Letty, you know, if you have any comments about that. I know you guys both have had a lot of experience in sifting that stuff down. Definitely open to your, you know, opinions or suggestions or questions. That would be great.
No, it's a tricky one. Sometimes it is really difficult to decide, should I err towards more verbatim or should I take out the fluff? But I just try to look at the context. I try to consider, you know, how important is this? Like if it's a hot topic with the city, something that's kind of controversial maybe, or a huge project, I'll stick towards verbatim. I kind of default there. Yeah. But if it's like in this case, Baumgartner was just explaining her reason behind something, so it maybe didn't need to be so word for word. But it's a tricky one. Sometimes I still find myself having to consciously think, okay, what should I do here? Right. And I would say too that sometimes it's just the sentence structure. So when you look at it and you're reading this, the reason behind doesn't need to be there. It's just she explained her motion, right? It's still correct. It still provides like what I would consider a verbatim level of detail, but it's extra sentences, you know, extra words that are really unnecessary to make the point. And just like, you know, he asked City Attorney Monahan, well, I would delete that because City Attorney Monahan responds. So it's kind of inferred he's just asking a question. So again, that's extra information we don't need. And I'll just leave that at that.
Well, that brings up a question for me. You can just start off with like Commissioner so-and-so responded. See, because I use confirmed a lot if the question is an affirmative answer. But
Mhm.
then if the question is not like they don't know or they're actually contradicting the question, then
Mhm.
I will usually put in so-and-so asked to set up the response, but
Yeah,
That's fine. Sometimes it
okay.
can be clarified, like, so if they're asking and it's contradictory, rather than confirmed, which you're right, I would put as more of an affirmation, a positive, you're correct kind of thing, then you could use clarified.
right.
Ask the question and then staff clarified the sidewalk was not 15 feet, but would be 30 feet at the time of development or whatever, so that
And if they
clarified.
don't, oh, I was gonna say if they don't know, because sometimes staff is like, I'm not sure, I'll find out, or they try to guess, which sort of
Mhm.
drives me nuts as when trying to figure out the wording.
Yeah. Yeah, then I would go, like you said, I would do a he said, she said, so-and-so
Okay,
asked, they responded. That's perfect. Yeah,
great, thank you.
great question.
Okay, observation.
Okay.
Down where our good buddy City Attorney Monahan is clarifying,
Mhm.
when we get to the third line, no, I'm sorry, second line, making modifications, comma, where necessary. I'm
Oh,
trying to
I
read
will,
that.
go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm trying to read that and I'm getting more confused because I'm trying to listen to, but it's just jumping off the page that comma between modifications and where necessary
Oh, yeah,
is not necessary.
correct.
Okay,
I should have put a disclaimer. I have not proofed this meeting at all.
okay,
I was
no, that's fine. I
skimming
I
through,
saw
but
that and I was like, wait a minute, hold on.
absolutely,
Right.
absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? You'll probably get you'll get one of these double WLCC meetings next, Chris. How's that?
Okay.
Sold.
I'm going back to mute.
Okay. Uh, all right, that's really what I wanted to touch on today. I mean, especially coming back from break and getting back into the swing of this. I just wanted to make sure that I had, you guys had seen some edits come back, and I wanted to make sure we have ample time for your questions. So fire away.
Yeah. No, good meeting. A lot of points, a lot of good points pointed out. A lot of good things pointed out.
Great.
I have I don't know how important it is, but at the bottom of the minutes, when the chair and a staff is signing off, I've had some samples where that's filled in already, which doesn't make much sense because it's usually the date of the meeting, which they would not be signing on that same date. And some are
Mhm.
blank. So what is the preference there? Blank or fill it in blue and let staff change it whenever the next meeting is when they might approve it?
Yeah, great question. Generally, we always include, the signature lines and line it up like they do for that format. I'm thinking with Redmond, and you can maybe just have to cross-reference this, but sometimes like an advisory committee, such as like a library board or a parks board or an advisory committee to the parks board, whatever, they won't have like signed minutes. That's usually like for city councils or planning commissions that are actually impacting the code of the city or the law of the city. So yeah, when in doubt, put it in and put it all in blue. And I'm suspecting that their template automatically defaults to the meeting date there. And then they will adjust it when it actually goes to signature. They'll readjust that date. So great question. Just put it in
Yeah.
blue if you have any doubts about the dates and stuff, but that's generally how that works. And it's always easier for them to just delete it than it is for them to go, oh, ABC missed that, and they have to type it all in. Yeah.
Right, because I mean, I personally wanted to leave just like an underscore so they could put, know what needed to put in. But I feel like then that's suggesting handwriting versus maybe if it's typed in blue, they'll just delete and replace it. So
Well,
that's
sometimes
good
these
to
minutes,
know.
yeah, sometimes these minutes are actually hand signed.
Oh,
And then they're scanned back in for the city. It depends on the level of technology available, or they'll do like, they'll set it up so it's electronic signature. So it goes through like I do through Acrobat Adobe, you guys have seen with the contracts where it just signs and comes back to them. So yeah, just putting it in there, it'd be great, Maddie. It's just a added value, I guess, for our clients, and then they can do what they want when they get it.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
Anything else?
That was all I had. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Glad to have you on today.
Oh, glad to be here.
Well then, so I am curious, just a quick announcement. We just secured another contract, which I was a little nervous about, but it's a work session contract with the city of St. Helens, Oregon. And they're wanting us to start with their work sessions for council. And then I suspect they might be like in Astoria, where we're doing all of their meeting minutes eventually. So that's happening. And now that we're transitioning into September, I know I am so behind on the Hillsborough meeting minutes, but I'm wanting to get that wrapped up by the end of September. So September 1, you guys are going to see a little bit different, some different changes as far as how your deadlines are. Previously, this last, it seems like 6 months where we've been short-staffed and trying to get everybody back up to speed and going. We've been very gracious with deadlines, let's put it that way.
Right.
And so you're going to see a little tighter turnaround on some of them so that we have time for our proofers to get their work done. So then I can turn it around and get it going. I've had Laura is helping with a little more, just organizing some different things for me. So you'll be seeing, like did everybody got the reminder today about the meeting today?
Yes.
Laura
Yes.
is an angel. I mean, she's just getting her feet in there and she's rocking it. So I'm excited. But you're going to see a change in those deadlines. And I'm still training Laura on how to set up the Trello cards with that deadline so it works. So you might see a deadline. Hopefully it would be extended out. But if there's, as always, if there's ever a deadline that is just like, this is impossible, Paula, the meeting is 5 hours. Sometimes we don't know how long they are, honestly. Please just, of course, respond through the Trello card, but if it's urgent, an email is great. I honestly have turned off the Trello notifications because I get so many a day, I can't even find the email from clients. So, and Laura has been pretty good about giving me an alert if someone has said something on the Trello cards, but if it's urgent, just email and we'll make sure you get taken care of. I think that's, at this point, that's my easiest work around for urgent matters.
That's good. Okay, thank you.
Can you, since all the meetings are scheduled, I assume that the majority of them are not ad hoc as emergency meetings, correct?
Yes, correct.
Then how long is it before they generally have the recordings available to us?
Generally, it's 24 to 48 hours.
Oh, that's a good
is it-
turnaround.
Is it possible to have Laura pre-schedule, like for each month, all the different meetings, have those pre-scheduled?
Well, we do actually have a file that I've been working
Okay.
with her on. So that would be great. That's a great suggestion, just to have that posted in our admin section or whatever, on the Trello board. We could just
Yeah.
have a meetings list and then I have it
Because
like on a calendar so we know.
Because then if that was already loaded in Trello as a meeting that's scheduled, then that could generate a task for her, say 48 hours after the fact of, now we got to get the recordings or get the file or whatever, 72 hours or 3 business days or whatever the
Mhm.
MO is. And that way it would be one less thing to theoretically, I mean, I realize there's going to be meetings that are called that are this or that, there's going to be this problem with the recording or this problem with the audio. I understand that, but I'm wondering if, because we do that in the blogging world, have editorial calendars. This is the subject for, this is everything we're covering in September. Okay, great. And so it's already done in August. And then
Yeah.
it's simply a matter of uploading the content. And so that, I don't know if that makes it easier or not, but I'm just, again, it's my systems and processes hat.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that feedback. And I guess I was going in a different direction with it. So from what I hear you saying, it's a trigger for Laura to be able to make sure things are loaded.
Yeah, so she could go through with all your clients, all the ABC clients, she could go through and say, okay, these are all the meetings that are scheduled for September or October or the rest of the year or whatever. And I
Mhm.
realize she has plenty to do. So I'm not, if Laura, when you listen to this, I'm not trying to dig you deeper into the ditch. But, you could have that so that when we're coming up into that second or last week before the new month, all the meetings for that month that will be handled for transcription are already loaded in Trello. So when the meeting happens, or the audio or whatever it is that we'll inevitably see in our file, when that gets, when that date is the date for that meeting is the trigger, and then maybe that starts a clock, countdown, so that, okay, we got to get this, we got to find the recording. And so it would just simply be a series of tasks on her end, just like we're following across the Trello. So it may be something that helps her. Again, I don't know that side of how you and her are working together. And I realize you're also having to relinquish some things that you haven't ever thought about relinquishing. So,
Well-
but I know how difficult that can be. I mean, I hate to say it, but I run into that all the time with people, and they don't want to let go. And but it does help, because
Right.
because now you're creating a system
Right.
that runs outside of you guys having to put your head together and figure out where everything is. So I don't know, but
Right.
she seems like she has come in and taking a lot off of your plate,
Yeah.
and that may just be something that's easier for her to do. So it generates a
Well-
task, just like it does for us. where,
Right.
okay, this meeting should have happened. I can go track down the audio. To your point, it's 24 to 48 hours, but it could even be a 72-hour turnaround on it.
Well, I can see, so our current process is our clients email us when the audio is loaded. So she is overseeing all my emails. So she sees when those are triggered, and she knows to go get it. She knows that if the team has some question about, because you guys will just do @Laura in your Trello card, hey, this audio is messed up, or it's got the wrong meeting or whatever. So then she will go back and hunt it down, as you say, with the clients. So that's her trigger. I was thinking about having it wouldn't be a monthly calendar, but it would be similar to a calendar, but it would just have weeks 1 through 4 on it. So you all could see, Astoria City Council meets the first and third Monday. Thanks, Letty. First and third Mondays, and Wilsonville Planning Commission meets the second Wednesday. And then you can have a visual of all the meetings that are happening. I thought maybe that's where you're going with that, because I think that would be helpful too. But
it might be, but by the same token, for us, or I'm sorry, for me, when I see the Trello notification, because I don't get 600 of them like you do. I get I get them 1 or 2 at a time, so it's not overwhelming for me.
Well,
But just in terms of,
oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, just in terms of the sheer volume of work that she has to do, because there are so many meetings, there are so many pieces of data that have to be loaded into the file. I'm sure it's overwhelming.
Well, the client loads everything in the file. That's why we moved to Dropbox, so that the clients load everything we need to the file, and it saves. Before, when we were doing it, our Quincy at the time, our production assistant at that time, had to download them and then put them on her computer and upload it, and it was arduous. And so that's why we moved to Dropbox. So Laura doesn't have to load anything.
Okay.
What we are looking at doing, and this is something Maddie and Letty might be familiar with, we've tried this a couple of times, is when I know there's a meeting coming up, we'll do this in pre-assigned. So for instance, Maddie knows it's not assigned yet, but it's on deck. If you think about baseball, this one's on deck for Maddie. And this is so we just set up all of the materials. There's the links and everything in there. So she knows that when I move that over to assigned, that's when she gets to start it.
Okay.
But she also knows that, hey, I know that this one's coming up, and if I happen to assign that and she just received 4 Redmond meetings, she'll be going, wait a minute, you dropped that at the wrong time. Well, so this was kind of like my on deck thinking, like, so that the team knows. I haven't assigned, I don't know who I'm assigning this one yet to. That's why it's kind of there. But that's kind of the process. So clients load everything, and once everything's loaded, they email ABC. Then Laura picks up, it's like, oh, we've just got audio and materials are loaded for West Lynn. Great. Then she creates the card, does the assignment, the deadline, all that stuff that you guys already see, and moves it to assign.
Okay.
So, but I think, I think the visual of having what meetings are happening when might be helpful, because also for you guys, our big deadline, our deadlines are 12 to 15 business days after the meeting date. And the reason we have that is because they're creating their packets for the next meeting. And so we have a drop dead, like we have to have that stuff to them before they start creating their packets, right? And through this last few months, we have been missing them. Like we're woefully, but I am woefully behind, not you guys. I am woefully behind on this proofing, shifting things around stuff. So, so that's what we're going to start shifting in September, is really dialing down our turnarounds, getting things back in a flow like we were before. And I feel like the team is getting there. So just let you know that that's what's coming.
Okay.
Well, your idea, Paula, of a calendar, say you just have the month of September, and then you just got, you posted ABC meets, well, not ABC, but the city council meets the 1st and 3rd, 6 o'clock, the 1st and 3rd of every month. You've got it there on your calendar. We can see that if that can be done, created, so it's just shot out to all of us so that we can download it, have it in our books that we follow with our calendars, on a monthly basis. That gives us a little extra insight also, because I
Yeah.
know I work with city council here in St. Mary's, but I know when they meet.
Right.
They're confirmed dates, so you can make some more plans, I think, and visual is always good.
Yeah.
Visual is always good.
And so I had thought about including that in our announcements and resources, but would it be beneficial to also have it emailed to you guys as a team?
Yeah, I think so.
Email rather than retrieving it? Okay. And the idea too is, because all of our meetings, our councils and so forth are very consistent, it would just be, instead of like a September, October, November, it would just be one calendar, because that's always the 1st and 2nd Thursday, 1st
Yeah.
and 3rd
Right.
Wednesday or whatever.
Right.
So, okay. Yeah,
That
that's
gives
great
us a little
feedback.
leeway. Yeah. That
Okay.
gives us a little insight into us, especially for me. I mean, I'm new at this, so to become more familiar with them, and you've got so many of them that I'm just learning some of these names, but that would be very helpful for me
Okay,
as an individual.
great. Letty, Maddie, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, that might be great for the proofers, and I would be interested too, but but for the transcribers, we kind of know what meetings we are supposed to do, so we can kind of look that up
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I probably should make a table for myself of when the meetings occur, but yeah, I mean, that would probably be helpful, but I don't want to give Laura any more work.
Well, she needs it. We're working on that. We're filling her list. That
Yeah,
was fun.
frankly, if it doesn't serve you and it doesn't serve Laura, then it's I'm not going to say it doesn't serve us, but I'm thinking about it from the point of view of just a tool for you guys. I know you know it, but it's and that wasn't at you, Maddie. That was at Paula. I know you know it, Paula, but you've got so much on your plate. It may be easier to see it. I'm a visual person, so
Yeah.
that's me.
I've had one created for probably 15 years. I have it already. I just haven't dispelled it to the team, right? I was just like, oh, this is what we do, and yeah. So
Yeah.
now it makes sense. Yeah, share the information with everybody.
Yeah. But that's you, and you can think it, you know it, you know exactly what day, what time, which chairs they're sitting in, or if it's a Zoom meeting, all of that
Hell,
stuff.
she's there.
But it's beneficial for some of us who are new at this, just to get a better flavor for it, an overall view, if you will, because I'm a visual individual also.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, the
Chris,
point
you
about-
must have gotten it from me.
That's
Yeah.
probably a pretty strong theory.
Yeah, the point about the visual is really good.
Letty, did you have something?
Yeah, no, just that, yeah, it'd be helpful if that's something that's easy for you to just populate, publish or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already done. It just tweak a little bit and now add the St. Helens meetings. Oh, it's going to be a fun year. Yay.
It beats
Christmas
the
is
alternative,
coming.
Paula.
Hey,
Yeah.
Paula,
Beats the
don't
alternative.
complain.
I
You know
am
better
not.
than that.
I am grateful beyond measure. I am very grateful. We have a great team.
Amen.
I couldn't do it without you guys. So very thankful for all of you and all that you guys do.
Well, we thank you for the opportunity.
So that's really a wrap. I want to apologize. I had one, my Pauline said my brain was not working vacation. So I called out one of our team members and said, hey, where's your meeting? And she's like, I thought you said we didn't have to submit it till after you got back from vacation. So if you received any of those from me, I am sorry. We're taking minutes now. We're getting back in the flow of things. And so if you have any questions about those, just email me and let me know.
Great, thank you. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to gearing back up.
Yeah,
And we're glad to have you back.
glad to be back.
We're glad you came back. I mean,
I thought about running away. No, I'm just kidding.
well, we were afraid of that, but we didn't want to bring it up at the beginning of the meeting.
That's the hard thing is this is a mobile business, so I can do it from anywhere. So it would find me eventually. So yeah.
So, well, thank you, Paula. This was a great meeting. I enjoyed it very much. Got a
Great.
lot of notes here and appreciate your time and effort.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Have a
you.
good week, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday night at 5:30.
Yep, your time.
Oh,
2:30.
Yeah.
all right.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thanks,
time.
Thank you. Have a great
Bye-bye.
evening,
Everybody.
everyone.
Good
Take
night,
care.
ladies.
Bye-bye.
Night.